is going to be speaking to how media can survive and can be a viable industry. And then under reforming information and content platform, IMPI recommends that the issues to do with the public service providers are addressed. Private broadcasters, community broadcasters, newspapers and online platforms should be allowed to cover the expanse of the country through a licensing and regulatory framework that permits greater public access to their media products. This would entail the reform of some of the broadcasting laws to clearly define community radios and the full embracing of the digitalization of the broadcast industry. So according to the IMPI report, the definition of community radio has to be discussed within the context of access, and also within the context of a regulatory framework to guide that. Under ethics and standards, the primary recommendation here is that there should be one common code of ethics for all journalists and media practitioners in Zimbabwe. This, it is proposed, should be done by agreement between the Voluntary Media Council of Zimbabwe, VMCZ, which is a self-regulatory body, and the Zimbabwe National Editors Forum. There is also, however, a proposal that the current dual regulatory system for the media be maintained, that is the state and self-regulation, with the example of media regulation in Kenya being cited. So naturally, mass stakeholders and media civil society stakeholders have been proponents and advocates for the realization of a self-regulatory system. And within the context of this IMPI document that I'm discussing as one of the significant developments, is recommending that the dual system in which there is the self-regulatory mechanism and the self-regulatory mechanism be coexistent. Now it also then speaks to our position as media stakeholders on how best, yes, we acknowledge that IMPI is not a policy document, but it is a government document which was initiated and supported by cabinet and government. What is going to be our position around regulation around this? Are we going to stand guided by this particular recommendation, or how are the the deliberations and discourses going to lead us into coming up with a common position on this? Then gender mainstreaming in the media. IMPI proposes that there be greater attention paid and given to gender mainstreaming in the media profession. This should be done through gender being an integral part of codes of ethics and the stamping out of sexual harassment in the media. I think this is a very welcome recommendation, and work around that is led by VAMS, at times in collaboration with ZUJ, should be continuously supported. And then on employment at the National Employment Council, the report recommends the establishment of a National Employment Council. Well, the report recommends that it be established within a month through collaborations between ZUJ, the parent ministry, and the Zimbabwe National Editors Forum. This will be augmented by also having codes for media industry so that they fulfill their missions. Information, arts and culture. The report also recommends that there be the revival of information centers in the country, while at the same time film and theater groups are actively engaged to help distribute information in the country. A call for the respect of intellectual property rights is also made in order to curb piracy, together with the payment of royalties and the establishment of an artist fund. On legal reform, IMPI recommends that there be a review of all media laws to align them with the new constitution. This would include a new law establishing a legal code of ethics for the media to be implemented or administered by the Zimbabwe Media Commission in a similar fashion to that of the Legal Practitioners Act. This law, however, must be devoid of criminal charges against journalists. With regards to broadcasting, IMPI recommends that government amends the Broadcasting Services Act and the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation Act to ensure gender parity, as well as to call for license applications for commercial and community radio stations at all times. Recommendations are also there that there should be a law to call for local content production for broadcasters. A significant recommendation is that the Access to Information and Protection of Privacy Act, IPA, and the Official Secret Act should be repealed and replaced with democratic ones. Then finally, convergence and new media. In light of the increasing reach of new media, IMPI recommends that media training regimes take these developments into account and develop multimedia approaches to news stories. These broad recommendations, together with their accompanying others reports that I have not highlighted as part of this presentation, remain a key advocacy and lobbying point for all media stakeholders. This is because they were arrived at with the participation of government and media stakeholders. Even if we were to find fault or argue that they are reflective of what has generally been in the public domain, they still remain important because of their collaborative nature with the parents' ministry. This would mean that while government can scape them in relation to immediate media policies, it cannot disregard the IMPI report because it is theirs. So it is therefore imperative that media stakeholders consolidate the findings of IMPI to our contemporary context. Such a consolidation would include using IMPI as a baseline survey. That is one way of using the report of the key challenges that confront the media in order to attain more effective advocacy. A key aspect will also be to link some of media stakeholders' advocacy objectives in tandem with the issues emerging from the IMPI report and allocating roles and responsibilities to media stakeholders. It would also be imperative that there be a greater sense of unity among media stakeholders in order to achieve, set out goals and objectives for the next calendar year, as is going to be informed by this stakeholders conference. It does not necessarily be speaking to the loss of autonomy of the various media stakeholders, but would build a more organic understanding of what would be essentially a defense of the fourth estate, defending our territory as the media, defending the rights and freedoms of the media, and also defending the public interests. Then beyond IMPI, as highlighted in the first sections of this paper, the IMPI report should essentially form a baseline to which key media freedom advocacy issues can be pegged. Not least because it is a report that had government's blessings, but also because the issues raised are in tandem with what can be viewed as independent concerns of many media stakeholders. There are, however, other issues that may not be directly related to the IMPI report that will be important in the next 12 months. These can be listed as follows. Protecting the fourth estate's independence and integrity in the wake of national economic downturn and layoffs of journalists. Digital migration in broadcasting, criminal defamation and its continued stay in our statutes, internet usage, regulation and new media, community media, definition and regulation. Under protecting the fourth estate, the democratic phrase, the fourth estate, in reference to Zimbabwe's media, has been severely strained over the last year, not least because of the economic downturn that has seen journalists being relieved of their duties in lieu of 3 months' notice. Furthermore, the closure of some media houses due to viability problems has left the professional media in a very difficult position vis-a-vis continuing its fourth estate role of independently serving the public interest in promoting government accountability, public access to information, and enhancing freedom of expression. In some newsrooms, there is greater self-censorship for fear of being next on the list of those to be relieved of their duties, as well as this lack of conducive working conditions. This is an issue that needs all media stakeholders to come together and protect the integrity of the profession by promoting better working conditions and accountability of media owners. It would therefore be helpful if an agreement or consensus was reached on the definition of the media industry and the democratic public interest role of journalists therein. Digital migration. To explain further, there are new issues that revolve around the technicalities and costs of digital migration in relation to access to television. These include taking a people-centered approach to the issue as it is rolled out by government, particularly where it relates to public knowledge of the process as well as the costs attended thereto in light of the announcement by government of the importation of set-top boxes. Efforts around these issues must focus with greater agency on the roles of developing diverse media ownership and local content for new television stations that will emerge. The issue of content has also been quite an issue, even as public consultations were being made. Criminal defamation. The primary challenge around criminal defamation as it relates to the media is that of the fact of our laws still allow for the arrest of journalists for what they write or broadcast. This issue, however, applies to citizens who use social media or other platforms. There is therefore the imperative need to establish a broader campaign against criminal defamation that not only serves the interest of professional journalists, but also citizen journalists and those that find themselves in trouble with the law for statements uttered in social environments. Such a campaign would broadly begin to challenge the public's acceptance of people being arrested for what they say in public, or as in the case that I discussed earlier, in telephone conversations. Internet usage regulation and new media. I understand one of the mass partners, Zimbabwe, in a forum they organized recently, there was an apparent need for greater advocacy around the use, regulation, and new media value of the internet. Public knowledge and awareness of the full import of the internet, particularly via mobile phones and the emerging expansion of wireless connectivity, must be undertaken in order to increase its democratic value in relation to freedom of expression, media freedom, and access to information. Then, mainstreaming community media definition and regulation. Over the last year, government has sought to redefine the national debate on the licensing of community radio stations. The main pretext of government entry into this debate in response to the Zimbabwe Association of Community Radio Stations, ZACRAS, has been predicted on how to define, has been premised rather, on how to define community radio stations. This contentious issue of defining community radio is a serious matter, as any other media freedom advocacy issue or development is concerned. Media stakeholders have to have a greater clarity and solidarity with community media initiatives in order to amplify this advocacy. So as I now conclude this paper, which was looking at 2014-2015 in retrospect, with a particular significant development being that of the INPI report, whose also development has well been overtaken by the redeployment of the ministry of the then minister Jonathan Moore. I would like to conclude by encouraging that it is imperative that there be greater collaboration and coordination between various media stakeholders towards a firmer understanding of shared values, principles, and symbolic interventions and actions around media freedom advocacy in a holistic sense. This would entail greater agreement and consensus on the parameters or definitive parameters of the media industry, understanding the impact of the national economy and the media as the fourth estate, and embracing the inevitable influence of the internet is having on media products. So colleagues, with this paper, I would like to end my presentation here and invite discussions and deliberations around some of the issues I have raised in this paper, but also any other issue I may have forgone in this paper, but may be of useful contribution to media stakeholders or to this conference. I would also like to just notify that there is a slight change. We had engaged the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Information, Media and Broadcasting Services, the Permanent Secretary, who had then said that is going to be represented by the Principal Director, who also unfortunately called early this morning that he will be unable to make it, to come and give the government's position on policy going forward. It is unfortunate, but however, we would still proceed with the program as such, and still, hope we attain the same results we have desired, which is to positively influence change and development. So at this point, I want to give an opportunity for engagement, as I give back the mic to our moderator to facilitate for that interaction and engagement on these developments and their significance to our work and to media development, after which we'll break for tea and proceed with our program. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, thank you very much to Nigel. Thank you so much for your attention. And the roving mic is available for any contributions or comments based on what we've just heard. Okay.